department's response to being able to get that program to meet the demand that is necessary. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the department. I'm not sure who from the department will be presenting, but is that Lauren? Who was going to be presenting?
That will be Nitsanet, our executive director for the Family Investment Administration, and then questions. She has her panel as well for questions.
Wonderful. Okay, so Nitsanet, why don't you go ahead and kick it off? I believe there is a slideshow presentation that's going to pop up on our screen in a second.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, Subcommittee Chair Resnick, Madam Chair McIntosh, and members of the committee. My name is Nitsanet Kibret, and I'm the Executive Director of the Family Investment Administration within the Department of Human Services. Today, we will provide you with an update regarding the SNAP program, and with me are Augustin Nabaganyamana, our Deputy Executive Director for Programs, as well as LaBelle Hillgrove, our Ombudsman. In terms of the department's response to the current pandemic, as the impact of the COVID-19 crisis spread across the state, the Maryland Department of Human Services saw an increase in the daily number of SNAP applications submitted through the MyDHR website. On slide 2, and when that pops up, you will see that the department experienced a 156% increase in the number of applications for the month of April 2020 as compared to applications received in April 2019. In terms of the number of newly approved applications, that number increased from 25,000 in March to 54,000 in April 2020. This resulted in the number of SNAP recipients increasing from 612,000 in March to 689,000 in April.
I'm going to stop you for a second. I apologize, but Dana, we're not seeing the slides. Can you pop that back up?
I apologize. On my screen, they're all popping up.
Okay, we don't see them. Any luck?
Are you seeing them now?
No. Do you want me to try and share the screen and get them?
Yeah, Pharrell, can you do that from your?
Let me download the slides so that I have them on my screen. Little technical difficulties, everyone. Apologies. We will get it squared away.
There we go.
Oh, there they go. Okay, we got them now. We got them.
I apologize about that. My computer was delayed for a second.
No worries. We got it. Let's go ahead and continue. So apologies for the delay.
No worries. If you could go back one slide. All right, thanks. So those are the stats I just reviewed. And as a reminder, newly approved SNAP recipients receive their EBT cards via mail. As a proactive measure, especially as the number of applications continued to increase, additional IT resources were added to serve the anticipated continued increase in citizen demand. We continue to monitor the availability and usage for all network devices, systems, and applications. We've also worked to make our eligibility system available to staff 7 days a week, increasing the number of active hours of operation by 15 hours per week. To improve efficiencies during the pandemic and address the increase in applications, we transitioned to a statewide process management model in April 2020. As such, the local departments of social services are no longer responsible for processing applications filed solely within their jurisdictions. Rather, they're tasked with ensuring that Marylanders statewide are provided with eligibility determinations in a timely manner. The transition to this model has allowed the department to improve upon our efficiencies, and this all hands on deck approach took effect April 28, 2020. Additionally, the department secured numerous waivers. Next slide, please. For SNAP program requirements. These waivers expedite the delivery of services to SNAP recipients and help lessen the burden of this unprecedented public health emergency. I'd like to highlight 4 of those waivers for you. 1, renewal postponements. Maryland secured a waiver to postpone the renewal of current SNAP cases that were due for renewal in the months of March, April, May, and June. Those cases were automatically renewed for an additional 6 months. Notices were mailed out to those customers in April, informing them of this postponement. As for interview waivers, we also secured a waiver that allows staff, our eligibility staff, to waive both telephonic and in-person interviews through May 31st, 2020. Third, the maximum household allotment. Beginning in April 2020, households began receiving the maximum allotment based upon their household size. It will remain in effect, this rule, until the federal state of emergency declaration has been rescinded. And finally, work requirements. We waived work requirements for all SNAP participants, including able-bodied adults without dependents, statewide. So these waivers help the department focus its resources on our mission-critical task of processing new applications for assistance. To reinforce these standards and support our local departments of social services, we convene twice daily calls as an agency solely focused on the statewide processing of applications and policy updates. In terms of our outreach efforts, we know that the partnerships we've cultivated have truly proven to be crucial in terms of further supporting SNAP recipients across Maryland. The department currently works with 20 SNAP outreach partners that are authorized to assist SNAP applicants as they apply for benefits by phone. This is a function that only the USDA authorized partners can carry out. It's especially important given the limitations that some of our fellow Marylanders face in applying for benefits online. We convene weekly calls with our SNAP outreach partners each Thursday, including today, in addition to standing monthly meetings to ensure that we continue to meet the needs of our SNAP population. As you can see on slide 4, we also maintain a regularly updated FAQ document on our website for public consumption. And that document speaks to many of the topics we've covered today, including telephone numbers for our call center for general inquiries, as well as for our SNAP outreach partners that are assisting with submitting applications over the phone. In response to the pandemic, our DHS call center onboarded additional staff to address the increased volume. And messaging was also added, callback messaging, to enhance the customer experience and drive traffic to our MyDHR online eligibility portal. And I know there was interest in our emergency food assistance program. The department received approval to observe what's known as disaster household distribution, or DHD, as part of our administration of the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TFAP. So DHD allows the department to partner with the Maryland Food Bank and the Capital Area Food Bank to conduct mass food distribution to individuals in need of emergency assistance. Since the plan was approved in early April, we've partnered with those food banks to distribute over 190,000 pounds of food to over 15,000 households. The department recently issued feeding cell contracts to support 6 organizations, including the Baltimore City Health Department, Maryland Food Bank, Capital Area Food Bank, Salvation Army, Food and Friends, and Movable Feast in their efforts to address emergency food shortages. The Baltimore City Health Department, Movable Feast, and Salvation Army will use the funds provided to them to deliver food to vulnerable populations. So that food delivery is focused on those impacted by COVID-19. And the Families First Coronavirus Response Act provided Maryland with an additional $6 million in TFAP funding, and we plan to use those funds to support local food banks to meet ongoing emergency food demands. And currently, the Capital Area Food Bank and Maryland Food Bank are able to order TFAP food commodities from the federal catalog. With that, I will conclude my remarks, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. So I'm going to start very quickly. If you can please go through the process of from initial application to getting your SNAP card. What is the timeline there that if an individual loses their job or has the need, they pick up the phone, they call you from that moment until they get their card? How long does that take?
Sure. So for traditional SNAP benefits, that would be 30 days, to a maximum, no more than 30 days in terms of the time frame within which we would determine eligibility. And for previous SNAP recipients, their existing EBT card would be activated remotely. And for new SNAP participants, and a new EBT card would be mailed to them, which could take up to 7 days. They're mailed out by our vendor. If the case is an expedited SNAP case, then the decision would need to be made in 7 days, within 7 days. And the criteria for that, and we would screen that in upon application, are households with less than $150 gross monthly income and who have 100 or less in liquidated resources. Households whose combined gross income and resources are less than their monthly rent or mortgage and utilities, and migrant or seasonal farm workers who are considered quote unquote destitute and have, that's FNS language, and have liquidated their resources. So for expedited SNAP, 7 days, and if they are new to the program, up to 7 days for the delivery of the card. I want to stress though that with SNAP, as opposed to temporary cash assistance program, the benefit would be rendered retroactive to the date of application. So.
And have you stuck to those timetables with the increased demand?
Yes, that is our mission critical task. For the month of March, we were able to meet compliance, and we're very proud of that. We knew that we were going to have to extend the hours with which we made our CARES eligibility system available. We have staff working across the state 7 days a week, including on Sundays. We knew that we needed to stand up the eligibility program so that it's functional on Sundays, which normally would not be, functional on Sundays. And we've also extended, for those who are willing to support the effort, overtime hours to staff who are willing to do that. And so meeting compliance, ensuring timely delivery of services is the Family Investment Administration's top priority. We do have outreach partners that we liaise with regularly who are in contact directly with customers who are applying for benefits, right? And from time to time, if they have questions, they'll turn back to the SNAP outreach partner and say, hey, you assisted me with applying for benefits last week. I'd like an update on where we are. We work very closely with those partners to ensure that where there are instances where someone is stating that they have not received their benefits timely, that those are investigated and resolved. We have a constituent service office as well as an ombudsman unit that is also there to support our customers. In addition to our outreach efforts with some of the advocates serving Marylanders experiencing homelessness, we have weekly calls with those advocates to ensure that we're also meeting the mark. But we are always open to suggestions and feedback from the legislature, our customers, and our outreach partners in terms of how we can do better.
So I'm going to follow up with one last question, Delegate Valentino Smith next. So I will say that I received an email today from the Homeless Persons Representation Project that disagrees with your assessment that you have been hitting the mark with regard to these applications. Their experience says that they have clients that have waited weeks beyond the regular application process, that it has taken over 10 days for cards to come in the mail. They have a hard time getting through to somebody, having to wait on hold for hours at a time, only to be told that to implement a change, such as adding a household member or reinstating benefits from previous improper closure, they have to wait at least 10 days, and 10 days passes and then they get nothing. And that doesn't even begin to start talking about folks with a limited English proficiency who cannot fill out the applications online because the applications online are only in English, and you all do not accept applications over the phone. So it seems like the picture that you painted does not dovetail with the experience of at least some of the advocates who regularly work with us to try and get these benefits to the people that need them. Can you respond to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that from HPRP as we convene weekly calls with HPRP, including one I believe that was held earlier today. In terms of applications by phone, I just want to clarify for those that may be participating remotely, it's that we do accept applications by phone. And on our FAQ document, we have pointed out that there are 4 in particular, including the Maryland Hunger Solutions, that will assist those who are interested in applying, and we encourage them to apply for SNAP in submitting those applications by phone. They would provide their authority to have that application processed by the partner through attestation that's provided and recorded by our partners who are authorized by USDA to receive those applications by phone. So definitely want to encourage those who may be listening to reach out to us and apply by phone through our outreach partners. We do have a few organizations that have specifically Spanish-speaking outreach partners, as well as those who speak other languages. And Catholic Charities is one of our outreach partners that has someone dedicated to this effort. And they have been working very closely with the other 19 partners to ensure that if the other partner can't serve a Marylander with limited English proficiency, that they can transition the call, transfer the call to a SNAP outreach partner that can. And so that is a priority, and that is a service that we are providing. In terms of the call center wait times, we monitor those calls every day, several times a day, to ensure that customers are not waiting for prolonged periods of time. And we've also it created messaging so that when customers do call the call center, we message that there are particular days and times that due to high call volumes, they may experience delay. And if they can, we advise that they call back at appropriate times, particularly between 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. are our highest call volume times on Mondays. And we encourage them to submit their applications via MyDHR while they're waiting. We share with them that redebt determinations have been postponed for 6 months across SNAP and cash programs. We message as much as we can the callback option. But for those who are waiting, if they are waiting for prolonged periods of time, we do want to hear from them. And I don't know, LaBelle, if you wanted to add anything regarding the call center wait times.
Great day. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you, Natsana. As it relates to the wait times, there has been a significant increase prior to what COVID, the experience that a customer would have had. However, it is monitored daily, and by bringing on staff from the call center is able to kind of keep up with the volume. So we do understand just through what's happening that there are going to be more individuals that are calling. So we've manned the phones to be able to assist them.
And for advocates and fellow Marylanders who are assisting those experiencing homelessness, we do have a dedicated representative that assists in troubleshooting and investigating cases that are brought to our attention by those advocacy groups.
Okay. Let's go to Delegate Valentino Smith for the first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I start, just a quick follow-up on the chairman had asked about the fact that a significant number of people are struggling with language. I can't see the website. Are the FAQs and anything on the website also in Spanish, or is it just English? They are. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to ask a couple questions about the traditional SNAP that you just explained, and then a question on pandemic SNAP. With respect to the fact that in April, there were 69,653 applicants, and you said that was 156% increase, but that you're tracking usage. Can you get back to us then and let us know of those, that huge number that applied in April? You said you can track by usage. How many and what percent now do have their card and are actively utilizing SNAP?
We can do that. We can generate a report and share that with the committee. Absolutely.
So I think it would be helpful for us to be able to see the percentage that applied in April that actually have their cards now and are using them. Can you also send us a breakdown by jurisdiction with respect to this 156% increase? I think intuitively, we know the jurisdictions that have tended to have high populations of SNAP recipients, but that the pandemic has now showed us that there are jurisdictions that hadn't really had food insecurity issues are experiencing them now. So if we could see by jurisdiction, I think statewide, it will help us to see the picture of the pandemic and what it's doing to the different communities. Are you able to send that by jurisdiction?
Absolutely, we can do that, Delegate.
So when we spoke on Friday, it was my understanding that if you're getting unemployment insurance, that counts towards your, whether you're eligible or not for TCA. Does it count then too towards your eligibility for SNAP?
It does. It is counted per USDA rules as unearned income.
Can we get a waiver, or have any states been successful in getting a waiver so that unemployment insurance doesn't have to be counted into the eligibility requirements?
So they issued guidance, essentially a rule that applies to all states, indicating that this is their firm decision. But we are certainly in regular contact with our FNS partners at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and we'll follow up in terms of guidance that we've received from the USDA.
So thank you. Just two more questions on regular SNAP and then pandemic. You indicated that you had a 6-month reprieve from the interviews and the renewal process, but that starting only to May 31st, 2020. Are you thinking about extending that, or in 2 weeks will that be implemented again?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the redetermination period, that's extended for 6 months for our current SNAP households that were scheduled to receive a redet determination in the months of March, April, May, and June. But for new applicants, we submitted and secured a waiver for the interviews to be waived for new applications received through May 31st. Our original request was for an extended period of time, and the response we received from FNS, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Service, was your waiver is hereby approved through the month of May only. So we are certainly interested in continuing to press on our original request. But as it stands now, we would need to revert to telephonic interviews for new SNAP applicants effective June 1st, without an extension of that waiver provided by USDA.
Have you filed, since you received that notice, have you filed for an extension?
So their conditional approval through May 31st is what's going to guide us, but we certainly continue to press them. And all they would need to do is approve our original request.
So I guess with Mr. Chairman and the chair, we'll have to work with the Maryland delegation then to try to get USDA to extend that May 31st deadline. With respect to the homeless, where are you mailing the EBT cards for them?
Good question. So it really varies in terms of the jurisdiction. With some of the jurisdictions that work closely with their local authorities, they will receive the EBT card on behalf of the customer and call the organization directly that's serving that customer. And with others, they will by appointment, in the same way we have drop boxes outside of our local departments of social services, by appointment meet outside of the local Department of Social Service through support from our advocacy community. They'll meet the customer and or the advocate outside of the local Department of Social Service. Any and all customers experiencing homelessness who need their EBT cards, we have on our daily calls discussed this at great length. We have even polled our local departments in terms of what they're doing. They are being served depending upon the local jurisdiction with the model that fits best.
And then can I switch to pandemic SNAP for a minute, Mr. Chairman?
Can you make this your last question? We have a lot more
Thank you.
people wanting to ask.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't realize. With respect to pandemic SNAP, which is obviously a very exciting program for the state and your approval of the pandemic SNAP. However, having to work with MSDE to get the word out to all of the families that will be available. I think when we last spoke, we were most interested in who's responsible for developing the communication and this very important letter, and when will it be mailed to the families so that they can start to avail themselves of the pandemic SNAP. And I don't know if you need to just give a word or two of what pandemic SNAP is with respect to the families in the school system.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes. So Maryland approved, requested approval for and received a waiver to operate what's known as pandemic EBT or PEBT. It is a benefit, the equivalent of $5.70 per day, conferred to children who were receiving farms prior to school closure. If due to the school closure, they're unable to access their free or reduced meal, they would receive the value of that meal in the form of, for our current SNAP customers, an additional $5.70 per day that school was closed on their card. And for new PEBT participants, they would receive it vis-a-vis a new card issued in the child's name. And so we're really quite excited to have secured this as a state. And we thank all those who were supportive of the department's efforts. And so, yes, in terms of the dates and the value of the benefits, so it would apply to the $5.70 every day that school was closed, beginning on March 16th for the duration of March, duration of April, May, and June. They receive their March, April, and May benefit in the month of June, their June benefit in the month of July. And so in terms of getting the word out for SNAP customers, those children are already part of a SNAP household. They don't need to do anything to receive their benefit. It will be loaded onto their card, for the head of households card, for the month of June to include March, April, and May benefits. But you're right, in terms of those not known, families not known to the Department of Human Services, with children who are receiving farms benefits, it's very important that we continue to work with our partners at MSDE to promote via joint messaging, our communication plan around ensuring that they know that they are eligible and will receive the benefit, and there's nothing they need to do in order to secure it. I want to stress that we've been working very closely with MSDE to ensure that at the local level, within each local school system, we're gathering the data that's necessary to reach those families.
And so who will be responsible for the mailing?
It will be a joint outreach effort, both the Maryland Department of Human Services and the Maryland State Department of Education.
Can you please send us the plan for that? I remain concerned this many weeks later that we still don't have a plan for when that document will be put in the mail for these families so that they can avail themselves of pandemic SNAP. They're not used to the SNAP program. They haven't been in it before. They've got to know to open the mail. And this is a huge benefit for these children. I know you agree, but it's concerning. We've had some difficulty getting daycare providers paid, a lot of delay. I just don't think we can tolerate delay with respect to the children that are going to need this pandemic SNAP.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Delegate Henson, and then Delegate Branch afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If Mr. Chairman will permit me 3 questions, I want to ask about the outreach, and then I want to ask about the work requirements, and then just get a point of clarification on the data. I will be very brief. With regards to the outreach, I know that when constituents contact my office and they are new to applying for SNAP benefits, we'll have people who are re-entering the community that were released from incarceration, so they're not eligible for unemployment benefits because they haven't been working, or people who are eligible for the PEBT benefits, or people who have recently lost employment. Are you taking opportunities to partner with other state agencies to make sure that you're advertising the program and using that for outreach? Are you partnering with unemployment to make sure that on whatever they have for messaging on their wait times and hold systems, that people are getting an opportunity for applications there, partnering with DPSC to make sure that people are getting that information on release, and partnering with each of the different state agencies to put that information before people who could find it beneficial?
Thank you for the question, Delegate. So in terms of our partnership with our sister agency, Maryland Department of Labor, outreach to those who may be newly eligible or applying for unemployment insurance. Yes, I'm happy to report that we observe a combined workforce development state plan with the Department of Labor. And through our WIOA state plan, we align our workforce development strategy in terms of serving temporary cash assistance customers with that of the Maryland Department of Labor. And so through those ongoing discussions, we meet regularly, several times a month. Yes, we did talk to them about wanting to promote on their website, and they were able to secure language from the department, from us, the Department of Human Services, that they post on their website regarding the availability of SNAP for those who are eligible. So,
Thank you.
yes, and in terms of returning citizens at the local level, many of our local departments of social services observe partnerships with their local authorities, public safety authorities, including on the Eastern Shore. We have a partnership through Caroline County, through corrections, in which we actually were there on site supporting non-custodial parents who are re-entering the workforce. And so we're working with them while they're still incarcerated, preparing them for self-sufficiency upon transitioning. So we have existing relationships at the local level to serve returning citizens, but we could certainly continue to improve in that area. And in terms of PEBT, yeah, so the local school systems are working directly with some of our local departments of social services. We are working directly with MSDE. Some of the schools are messaging, our local departments of social services are messaging. And I know that everyone's looking forward to official messaging coming from the Department of Human Services and MSDE. And we're working, meeting several times a week to ensure that that happens sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just encouraged to make sure that that is as robust as possible when we mention that to people and give them the full arrangement of alternative options while they are waiting in the queue for unemployment benefits and other loans and protections to be approved. Sometimes, more often than not, it is their first inclination to tap into SNAP benefits or some of the other benefits that we mention to people as alternative options. My second question is with regard to the work requirements being waived. We know that digital divide is not just something that our students face, but a number of people in the workforce face that as well. And people with the vendors not being engaged to have people do retraining and other different things that they were doing as a part of their work requirements. Has there been any efforts to do some retraining in terms of digital skills, getting people the basic skills that some of our workers are going to need to make sure that they're competitive in what new job markets are going to look like? So not as a requirement, but as an enhancement for anyone that wants to take this time for retraining, but maybe doesn't have the resources to enroll in something that costs. Is there any inclination on the department's end to repurpose those vendors for that benefit?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked the question, and I should have referenced that earlier in my remarks. So in terms of, we wanted to be careful in terms of messaging to our customers. While it's a relief, I'm sure that they are not required to comply with work requirements to maintain their SNAP and cash assistance benefits. What we've done is we have worked extensively. I'll start with a SNAP. We have what's called, we have SNAP employment partners, SNAP employment and training partners, or SNAP ENT partners that we engage on an annual basis. They are vetted through the USDA. And what they do is they provide free of charge to the customer training, educational opportunities, and employment opportunities, subsidized employment opportunities to customers who are currently participating in the SNAP program. They would then invoice the department for those services, and we provide them with a 50% match, dollar for dollar. So if they incurred a cost of $1,000, we provide them with a $500 essentially reimbursement for services rendered. In this environment, early on, we worked with those partners to ensure that they remained engaged with customers currently served through the partnership and newly eligible SNAP customers who may be interested in learning more about SNAP E&T. Again, it's at no cost to the customer, and it's at no cost to the department. 100% of the reimbursement that we provide is a pass-through from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA. And so what we've done is we've engaged all of them, all 20 of them. We have 20 outreach partners, 20 SNAP employment and training partners to assess where they are and to also revisit our contractual obligations with those entities to ensure that they can continue to serve uniquely in ways that we had not contemplated October 1st, 2019, our customers who are interested. And they have done an excellent job in doing that. With temporary cash assistance, in at least one jurisdiction, they maintain 100% compliance with work requirements that we've waived because those customers are still interested in improving their chances of securing employment in what we hope is a temporary experience with the TCA program. And so I know in Hartford County, early on, 100% of their TCA customers were still engaged with the partner. With 4 partners, vendors, that were pay-for-performance vendors, we've revisited those contracts in partnership with our local departments of social services to amend those payout points to include remote training and education.
Thank you. And then my final question is just a point of clarity. On the second slide, it discussed the number of applications, the percentage by which the applications had increased. But I don't think I caught the data point on the percentage increase in the approval rate. How does the application increase compare to the approval rate increase?
Good question. So our denial rates, what we would term our denial rates, have maintained steady. In fact, it took a slight drop in the month of April. And so if you just give me a minute here. So, so our March SNAP denial rate was 32%, and our April SNAP denial rate was 27%. Currently, we're on track right now, maintaining the average denial rate for state fiscal year 2020 is 34%. So a slight drop in the month of April.
And then what's your clearance rate of the applications that you're getting? How many are you processing?
So our mandate is to process those applications, at least 96% of those applications in a timely manner. And that's something that we report on monthly in terms of our compliance rate across all programs. Within SNAP and expedited SNAP, in the way that I described earlier, we have exceeded the 96% mark in terms of timely processing of those applications. And the only way we were able to do that was in shifting in real time, pivoting the way we process those cases. We could not have pockets of excellence and efficiency in one jurisdiction or another. We realized that we needed to move to statewide processing due to economies of scale.
And in non-expedited SNAP?
Yep, in non-expedited SNAP. Yes, we exceeded our compliance rate.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let's go to Delegate Branch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let me thank all the members for your questions. Those are great questions. My question is, in terms of SNAP, I want to look at the total meaning of what it means in terms of the processing of applications. You also have SNAP, cash assistance, and medical assistance. Those are all of the applications that individuals are applying for. And my question is there a backlog as a result of that group of applications?
Thank you for the question, Delegate. We're not experiencing a backlog. We discuss and, as our mission critical task, focus on serving customers who need our services in a timely fashion, more than I can describe. So we meet on average 3 to 4 times a day with our local departments of social services to assess where they are, what some of the barriers may be, what we can do to assist. We reassign cases with great frequency, and where we, through constituent services feedback or call center feedback, receive any indication that there is a delay, that is sent to essentially a tiger team, what we call it, to reconcile. And so if there are issues, we want to hear from those constituents. I would encourage them to reach out to the department if they have questions or are concerned about processing time.
Well, many of them have reached out, and many of them, as the chairman said, have trouble getting through. They get caught in a web of the answer machine assigning them to places that they really don't want to go because it's not going to answer their question, and then being told that they would have to email it in and then not get a response. But it's hard to believe that you get, on the average, before the pandemic, you were about 4,000 or 8,000 people asking for assistance, and then that number, it's like 3 to 4 times that amount in this limit of newly formed applications now. It's just hard to believe that there is no backlog whatsoever. And also, and I've run into a number of people that are in my district that I see in the supermarket, I pass on the street, and they walk past my door. And many of those that even work for you that have stated to me that it's a number of them that are a number of the FIA staff that's working for the Department of Labor Licensing and Regulations and receive computers for that to help them with their backlog in terms of the unemployment insurance, when yet we have a number of applications in FIA administration that are not being addressed. And I'm sure you gotta have some hitting that 30-day mark of federal requirement.
Mm-hmm. So in terms, I'm happy to take back the issue you raised regarding assisting other agencies with their work.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Yes.
And report back to the committee on that. In terms of how we were able to manage the historic number of cases that we received last month, that is a good question. I just want to emphasize that the vast majority of our caseload was essentially going into this pandemic redetermination, customers that we're already serving. And we have instructed staff not to touch those redebts, as you know, as I think easily as sometimes we fall into a rhythm, and that's working new applications and redeterminations. They are not to touch redebts that came due March, April, May, and June. So that has helped. And then also waiving the interview requirement. As long as documentation does not require that we call for any reason, as long as there are no red flags associated with that application on its face, they are to approve it with the information that they have available to them. And we've even given our applicants 90 days to submit verifications, necessary verifications. So that definitely helps speed up the processing times. And then one other thing I would add is that we, instead of assigning cases beginning to end with our current eligibility system, which is a bit challenging and we're modernizing this year, we have broken up essentially each local department into teams. So they're either running clearances or they're processing. Some are doing both, but that has helped. So they don't return to different screens and go back and forth. There are limited efficiencies with working the case, both clearances and processing. So I would say that those 3 approaches have definitely help to significantly improve upon our efficiencies. And in terms of specific cases, we're happy to follow up with you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may ask just one more question.
Mhm.
Here in Baltimore, Baltimore is probably one of your largest customers, and we have you have over 600 FIA workers or so, and that are working in Baltimore. I think most of them don't even have computers. You have like maybe I guess maybe half might have computers. And then I understand that a memo recently was forwarded that the governor was not going to sign any other orders for additional computers. What's happening there, if you might tell me?
Sure. So approximately 278 laptops statewide are in the process of being deployed by our local departments of social services, and we believe that'll be completed tomorrow. So if there are laptop outstanding requests that we're unaware of, we'll need to follow up as appropriate.
Well, you have 250 that are at home on administrative leave in Baltimore or more. So are they, or will they those individuals be getting computers?
Yeah, we want as few of our staff on administrative leave as possible and have issued that directive to our local departments of social services. The 278 figure is statewide, so we will certainly follow up with our local departments of social services to ensure that they have what they need and that that we serve them as necessary. The provisioning of laptops should not be a barrier to completing their work, and so I'm happy to follow up because per our records, 278 statewide are outstanding, and those should be delivered tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to Delegate Valentino Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Branch actually asked what I wanted to go back to, which was the focus on the workers and their availability to technology. So given the fact that he clarified computers should be delivered, because it's our understanding the FIA workers don't have what they need at home, will they also have the IT support or the extra IT support? I know myself, something goes wrong on my computer, I have a difficult time trying to figure out IT support if my 14-year-old isn't home. But, are they IT going down during the day? How much IT support are they going to have? The computer arriving at their house, might not be enough.
Yeah, that's a good question. Our local departments of social services have done an outstanding job training their staff on how to work remotely, including how to troubleshoot when there are concerns. And we're definitely committed to supporting them as a central unit. We have a help desk, an IT help desk that our locals can call during the day, and they issue work orders, there are tickets, and they are to be dispositioned timely so that we don't have people waiting too long to be serviced. We've also provisioned what's called Amazon Web Service or remote desktop service to employees that are interested in utilizing their own personal devices. And as we have, yes, we've been engaged in troubleshooting remotely. We have different levels of proficiency in terms of the ability to work remotely. We have pockets of excellence in that area, and we're actually developing training to assist supervisors and managers in how you manage staff that are 100% teleworking. It's not without challenges though. Sometimes we find that the latency issues that are reported are actually as a result of their local network challenges or their personal Wi-Fis versus what's happening with the CARES eligibility system. And we have not found that there are I'm really happy to report from the My DHR eligibility portal, we have not experienced latency issues there. So that surge of applications that are coming through from our customers through the online eligibility portal has not resulted in any latency issues. And we're proud to share that with you. In terms of our eligibility system that the workers are using to access those cases on the worker portal side, if there are latency issues, we are in close communication with our IT professionals. But so far, we have been able to process these cases remotely with no major challenges.
Well, Sana, thank you. I know you do always try and be thorough in your answers and appreciate that. I do think that Delegate Branch, though, really hit on what may be a huge problem here with a month out and all of our caseworkers and these very important workers not having the technology or the technology support that they need. And I think that's something we just need to continue to make sure the governor's supplying the agency with the extra IT support and making sure when those computers arrive, we wish we were there sooner, but those caseworkers have the ability to get IT support.
Thank you. We haven't, as an agency, received all the IT support we could have asked for from our sister agencies. And so if there are specific cases where that we need to investigate beyond the 278 that are being delivered tomorrow, we will certainly follow up. Happy to.
Okay, let's go to Vice Chair of the committee, Delegate Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the presentation. I have a quick question. Prior to this meeting, I sat in on a meeting regarding Census 2020. In an effort, obviously, to identify everyone who has needs in our state, particularly during this pandemic. Maybe you can answer now or later, but if you could keep the committee abreast of your efforts regarding any partnership you may have with Complete Count or Census. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We, yes, are very much aligned with the state census efforts, outreach efforts. We have received 2 briefings from our census partners as a state agency, and they have, been very explicit in terms of their desire to have us outreach to difficult to serve populations, including our SNAP population. And so we have a link on our website promoting the census, and we are also planning to disseminate correspondences, notices to all SNAP households, encouraging them to be counted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up with a quick question. I'm going to start with a somewhat obvious one, but I think it's important to lay the groundwork. This surge, this 150% surge in applications, I am assuming that it is a direct result of the fact that because of COVID-19 and the shutdown of and isolation of everyone has forced people out of their jobs, and so they have applied for SNAP. Is that correct?
Well, yes, and in the month of March, there was, I think, a misconception out there that eligibility would be conferred to applicants no matter their income, irrespective of their income. Program eligibility requirements still apply. Mm-hmm. And so if you are deemed overscale, your application will be denied. There is some conjecture around what may have contributed to the high number, but yeah, absolutely. The high number is directly attributed to the need.
So my question is this then. As you know, starting tomorrow at 5 o'clock, Governor Hogan has lifted, has essentially implemented phase 1 of reopening and has lifted the stay-at-home restrictions as well as restrictions on retail and services, service industry businesses up to 50% capacity. By doing that and allowing a variety of businesses, many of whom have lower income or minimum wage workers, to go back to work, even though the state itself has not met the governor's own requirement of 14 consecutive days of decreasing numbers surrounding the COVID-19 virus. It's going to force people to go back to work because their businesses will reopen. And as a result, because their businesses are open, they will likely be dropped off of things like unemployment. Does that also mean that you will see a decrease in the number of people on SNAP and a decrease in the applications to SNAP because those people are going to be forced back to work, whether they feel we're ready or not?
We're going to monitor that, Delegate. Interim changes, including any changes to their income, must be reported to the local Department of Social Services. And if they are deemed overscale due to income, we will have to take appropriate action, which could lead to, in some instances, those cases being closed with proper notification to the families. And so it's something that we'll monitor. This, you know, as this is a rapidly evolving environment. It hasn't happened yet, but it's quite possible, yes. And we're happy to report on declines in our SNAP population, point in time, monthly, however you'd like that, so that we can continue to track and keep you informed on what we're observing.
I would like to see that. Thank you. I'd also like to see that weekly, because depending on how we reopen, I don't know if you can do it weekly, but if you can do it weekly, that would be useful in order to see how the change occurs from starting starting tomorrow.
We can produce weekly reports, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for the department?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Chairwoman McIntosh.
Thank you. Just a real quick question. Going back, if you will, even during the session when we walked through your budget, what's the vacancy rate in your department during the months of January, February, March?
I'd be happy to get back to you, Madam Chair, with that information. You mean as a DHS wide or FIA specific?
I think DHS, yeah, wide. I think
Okay.
For the whole department. I mean, and let me tell you why I asked this. You know, for the last several years, this committee and the full committee has sounded the alarm. And your department, health department, labor, commerce, about the number of vacancies not being filled. And the fact that, in fact, DLS wrote a report which called into question whether or not several departments were so low on staff that it called into question whether or not they could, in fact, fulfill their mission. And so what I'd like to do is get that information about the vacancy rate in your department leading into this year. And I'm going to do the same for these other departments, because I think in good times, in great times, back in January, when and last year, we had such high vacancy rates that I think when this pandemic hit, it contributed greatly to our inability to serve Marylanders. And so please get us that information. We're going to ask that information of DLS and all departments so we can do an assessment about what happened with some of these responses. But I do thank you for today, for being forthright. And I also want to thank Delegate Branch for being with us today. And Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seeing as we have no more questions, I want to thank the department for joining us. Thank all my subcommittee members and all my fellow committee members who joined us today for this briefing, and look forward to more of these as we try and deal with this pandemic. So thank you all very much. And I think at this time we will be adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.